County judge heard arguments for and against COVID-19 mask mandates in schools when it comes to mandates on putting masks on kids or also allowing to exclude them from schools. And parents, students, teachers, staff, school districts, all waiting for a ruling on this. It is the WMAY morning news feed. Love to hear from you. 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. That's how you can chime in live and local here on the WMAY morning news feed. And which way would you like to see this case go? Again, we're not going to know until Friday at the earliest. Sangamon County Circuit Court Judge Raylene Grishow, she said does not expect a ruling before this coming Friday. So there's a lot of anxious anticipation as to which way this is going to go. So some of the arguments that we heard in court range from school districts saying that they need this in place to operate. You've got parents represented by attorney Thomas DeVore saying that kids deserve due process rights. And these are some of the various arguments back and forth. But even the governor sounding off on this on Thursday afternoon, he had some things to say about this, and here's what the governor ultimately had to say in response to these ongoing actions in the courts. Here's the governor.
These lawsuits have been working against people's health and safety. He has seemingly been collecting money from people grifting all over the state to file lawsuits that shouldn't have been filed. We should be working together, all of us, to try to get past this pandemic. Nobody wants to wear masks. I don't want to wear a mask. Nobody wants to, have to deal with the challenges of this pandemic, but we do, we must. And particularly children in schools, teachers, staff in schools. So I'm always disappointed to hear about people who are working against and taking away, frankly, people's freedom from this virus. That's what we're looking to do, to give people their freedom from the virus. These people are holding us back. They're going to close schools as a result if they were to win. Small businesses will close if they win. We have to fight for them. And so I'm going to continue to do what I do. And I want to especially call out the very, very strong work of the Attorney General's office throughout this pandemic at protecting the people of Illinois.
And the Attorney General's office is who is representing Governor J.B. Pritzker in these challenges. And these challenges aren't just about challenging mask mandates on kids at 145 schools. There's a separate lawsuit that we're still waiting on a ruling from as well, and that deals with vaccine or testing mandates on teachers and school staff. And the Assistant Attorney General representing the governor in this case, in that particular lawsuit, said that there is no vaccine mandate. He said that the mandate's more about the testing requirements, that if a teacher doesn't want to show proof they got vaccinated, they have to provide at least one negative test a day, or else they'll be excluded from school. So again, that's a separate case. That was also heard for a second day last week. Not sure when a ruling is going to be out on that. But when it comes to the mask mandate, as you heard the governor there, and again, I'd love to get your thoughts on this and your reaction. The governor saying that those who are fighting this mask mandate are fighting against freedom from the virus. Here's the governor again with that statement.
That's what we're looking to do, to give people their freedom from the virus. These people are holding us back. They're going to close schools as a result if they were to win.
So Attorney Thomas DeVore, whenever they were arguing this in front of the court, he laid out there that this really is about due process. He represents the parents in this case, and there's more than 700 parents, and he argued Thursday the issue is about individual due process rights that are laid out in state law when it comes to quarantining and due process people have in that particular avenue of public health policy. If you're going to say somebody is sick and they have to follow a certain procedure like quarantine at home, like vaccinate, or like use a medical device like a mask, then there is due process rights there.
These children have rights when it comes to these masks, which are a device intended to limit the spread. When it comes to exclusion from school, they all have rights, and their rights needed to be protected, and we're asking you to protect their rights.
So again, that was Attorney Thomas DeVore in court Thursday. But other arguments that were raised in court Thursday include from a slew of different attorneys representing school districts. And again, you can sound off on this 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. But Attorney DeVore, he argues that public health officials, if they want to quarantine, vaccinate, or mask someone out of health concerns, and the person's not willing, then they must prove in court that the person's a health risk, and that largely has not happened with mask and exclusion policies on kids in school. Now, attorney Kathleen Gibbons, who represents one of the districts, she said that the potential harm outweighs the risk, and that's something that the judge is going to have to balance here, is the harms and the risks. And Kathleen Gibbons telling the courts that there's a balance there that needs to be made. Here's Kathleen
These
Gibbons.
decisions do not affect just these individual students and their parents. They affect all the rest of the children in Valley View, all the teachers, all the staff, and all the parents and other family members in those homes.
Now, Attorney DeVore, he's not the only attorney representing parents. Will Gerber also representing parents, and he said that you can't take a student's rights away just based off of hypotheticals. Here's Will Gerber.
It is allowing schools to take healthy children out of school, remove them from public education without the right to be heard.
So, again, hearing some of these arguments back and forth, would love to hear your thoughts. 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970 if you want to sound off. Now, some of the sentiments that are out there you can find at change.org, and in particular, if you look and see at some of the petition drives that are being done there at change.org, you can see that one that says Illinois residents support masks in schools has about 2,600 people who've signed on. And some may point to that to say, listen, that's an indication of the public support for mandating masks in schools, is having that number of petition signatures. Again, about 2,600 have signed on to this. But you also have another petition that's Unmask Our Children, directed at the Illinois State Board of Education and others. And that particular petition has nearly 7,500 that have signed on. And you can find different examples of this at change.org, but that's kind of like, a place that makes petitioning easy, makes signing petitions easy. But just an indication, I guess, of just where we're at in the public conversation of mask mandates in schools. And again, we don't know what the outcome's going to be. The judge said not to expect a decision on this. What's the decision that it could be? Well, the parents are seeking a temporary restraining order. A temporary restraining order means that it would ultimately temporarily block the mandate, and it would block the mandate for the parents' kids in this case. So that's the decision the judge has to make, as to whether to grant that TRO, that temporary restraining order. But there's also something about class certification, and that would lump in all the students in these particular schools, 145 school districts. It would lump them all together and say that all the kids can't have masks forced on them. Nobody's saying that masks can't be optional. In a lot of these districts, they do have masks optional. Some districts are being targeted by the Illinois State Board of Education with their recognition status if they don't make masks mandatory. But that even has some people saying, well, you can have the written policy saying it's mandatory, but not really enforce it. And then what's the point? Then is it just about complying with whatever's written there and not actually following through? So you can see where the deeper you get into the weeds, some of the substantive questions really come to rise. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Hi, how you doing?
Good. Yourself?
Great. I believe everybody should have their own choice. If they want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If they want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. The problem is the federal government has been all in on forcing all the mask mandates and forcing all the vax mandates. Now they just can't eat some crow and say, you know what, we were wrong. We need to let people make their own decisions. They just can't do that. They just can't take a step back and say, we were wrong. We'll let people make their own decisions because apparently masks aren't working. The vax aren't working because the deaths are still going up. Biden had 3 vaxes, the 2 vaccinations and the booster, and more people are still dying. And they're just blaming it on people who are not wearing masks.
Well, and listen, I mean, the stats are showing a variety of different things. We might see continued deaths, but also we're seeing a plateau, if not a downright decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases. But listen, I mean, the sentiments that caller shared, you'll hear that a lot. If vaccines and mask mandates worked, especially in a state like Illinois where it's mandated, you have to wear a mask indoors. I guess it really depends on where you're at throughout the state, whether it's being enforced. But even with the mandates in place and even with the wide availability of vaccines, you're still seeing, the increased number of cases, though that's gone down, and hospitalizations as well. 217-629-7970. Good morning. Your thoughts?
Well, I believe in freedom of choice if you want to eat Big Macs or salads or what you want to watch on TV. But my wife and I are in our 60s. We both drive school buses here in Springfield. And as long as the numbers are still high because we have COVID morbidities, I would appreciate the kids wearing masks since it seems to be running through them right now.
And masks are mandated by federal law, or I don't know if it's federal law, but by the president's executive order that he signed earlier this year. Masks are required on school buses, and you see that being implemented all across. But when it comes to the individual school district, do you think that kids should still be wearing masks indoors?
I don't know. There's a lot of older teachers out here with probably morbidities too. So
Yeah.
until those numbers come down, I don't see what the problem is.
Gotcha. All right. 217-629-7970. Getting your thoughts here as looks like we're waiting a few more days before a ruling on the temporary restraining order to block masks in schools from being mandated. Doesn't mean that you wouldn't have an option. You could still have your kid wear a mask if you wanted them to, but you just couldn't force it on to a child. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
I think there's a huge misconception on what masks are supposed to do. The masks aren't supposed to keep you from contracting. They're supposed to have it so and my son got infected by some jerk on a plane when we were heading back from London. What it's supposed to do is when your nasty self coughs, sneezes, has a little whatever in that, keep you from acting like a virus aerosol and infecting like the 6 feet area around you. It's supposed to have it so that all of your nasty stuff that you're spraying, maybe you don't brush your teeth, your bad breath, all that crud.
Well, okay, so
stays right up on your face.
don't conflate wearing a mask to slow the spread of COVID with keeping your nasty breath to yourself because you didn't brush your teeth.
I'm saying half the people I've seen who don't want to wear a mask seem to have other nasty habits too. So,
well, what about the nasty habits of eating junk food all the time, leading to obesity, which is a major comorbidity. If somebody's obese and they get COVID, even if they're vaccinated, they end up in the hospital. It's going to take up a hospital bed. Should we have mandates when it comes to what you're allowed to eat? And listen, I think a lot of the arguments are about either a freedom of choice or a responsibility that we all have, and that seems to come down to some of the really distilled issues here. One more call. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning, Greg.
Hey.
I obviously believe in the freedom of choice. My question is for the previous caller, the school bus driver with comorbidities who's concerned about his risk factor. Is he doing anything for boosting his immune system? Is he taking extra vitamin D3 or zinc or vitamin C? He's willing to take the vaccine and make other people wear a mask, but is he willing to do things to protect himself that have shown to work.
And again, I don't know that. Of course, we just take callers here. I don't know individuals particularly, but yeah, I think it's an interesting question that a lot of us seem to have, maybe forgotten about is self care, and it goes above and beyond wearing a mask as a device to slow the spread. You've got a lot of other issues when it comes to self care, diet, exercise, supplements, nutrition, etc. So good stuff. I appreciate everybody chiming in here, but we'll keep you posted on what we find out about the temporary restraining order when it comes to masks in schools.